The title of this story is My Cheating Fiancé's Friends Physically Attacked Me After I Refused to Marry Her, so I pressed charges and sent them all to jail. Hey everyone, before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. I'm still going through the legal system, and my main account is pretty easy to find. This whole thing is honestly crazy, and I still have trouble believing it really happened to me. What started as a normal engagement ended with 3 people in state prison, 2 on probation, my ex facing jail time, and her lawyer boyfriend probably getting disbarred. Just typing that out feels surreal. Okay, so some background. I met my ex-fiancée, a 29-year-old woman named Katie, about 4 years ago. I manage a sports bar, and I know what you're thinking, manager at a sports bar? Not exactly a fancy career. But I love my job. I started as a bartender right after college with a business degree that I never really used. I worked my way up, and now I run one of the most successful locations in our chain. We do great business, have great regulars, and my staff actually likes working here, which is rare in this industry. Katie was a super successful real estate agent, like the kind who posts "I just sold another million." Katie came into the bar every week to brag about her dual property on LinkedIn. One night, she came in with a group of high school friends who were all very successful on paper. 2 lawyers, both corporate, a doctor, a dermatologist, a finance executive, something with hedge funds, and a marketing director at a big tech company. They were celebrating one of their birthdays and spent $600 on drinks and appetizers. After that, Katie kept coming back to the bar, usually during my shifts, and we hit it off right away. She loved that I could make her laugh. She made me laugh, and I was impressed by how driven she was. Her friends would make little comments about my job, like, "Oh, it's so nice that you're happy where you are," or "Have you ever thought about getting into corporate management?" But when you're falling for someone, you don't notice that kind of stuff. Things moved pretty quickly after we started dating. She practically lived at my place after 3 months, and we officially moved in together at the 1-year mark. I had this nice 2-bedroom apartment in one of those modern buildings downtown. It wasn't anything fancy, but it had a doorman and security cameras, which will be very important later in the story. The apartment was in my name because I had better credit and had been living there for a few years already. Life was good for a while. Katie was doing great in real estate. She made more than double what I did, which her friends never let me forget, lol. But we were happy. I was moving up at work, getting promoted to general manager, and then getting put in charge of training new managers at other locations. Our families got along great. Her parents were this sweet older couple who treated me like a son, and my parents loved how ambitious she was. Last December, I decided to propose. I planned this whole weekend trip to this mountain resort about 3 hours away, had it all set up with a private dinner overlooking the lake, and a ring hidden in the desert. Yeah, kind of cheesy, but she was always talking about how she wanted a story she could tell people. She said yes, obviously, and we spent the whole week celebrating. In charge of training new managers at other locations, our families got along great. Her parents were this sweet older couple who treated me like a son, and my parents loved how ambitious she was. Last December, I decided to propose, planned this whole weekend trip to this mountain resort about 3 hours away, had it all set up, private dinner overlooking the lake, ring hidden in the desert. Yeah, kind of cheesy, but she was always talking about how she wanted a story she could tell people. She said yes, obviously, and we spent the whole week celebrating, and we started planning the wedding for October of this year. We wanted to do it before it got too cold, but after the summer wedding rush when everything is super expensive. Katie's parents offered to pay for most of it, which was great of them. They put down like $40,000 in deposits for this fancy venue, catering, flowers, and all that stuff. This is important later too. That's when things started getting weird. Katie's friend group suddenly had to be involved in every single decision about the wedding, and I mean every single one. They all had to agree on the color scheme, the menu had to fit all of their dietary needs, and the seating chart had to make sure they were all at the best table. It was exhausting, and their comments about my job got worse. They would say things like, Katie, are you sure you want the wedding at 6:00 p.m.? Won't Op have to work, or maybe we should do wedding dress shopping on a Tuesday, since that's probably a slow night at a sports bar. Just constant little digs, you know. But Katie never stood up for me. She'd either laugh it off or worse, agree with them. I started noticing other changes too. Katie was working later and later, always had these emergency showings that would pop up at weird times. She changed her phone password, started keeping it face down all the time. Classic cheating behavior, right? But I trusted her, or I was stupid, probably so. At my bar, we have a regular customer named Sarah, not her real name, who comes in every Wednesday with her work friends for trivia night. She's been coming for years, always tips well, and never causes problems. She's one of those customers you actually enjoy seeing walk in. She works in HR or something and is a really nice lady, probably in her mid-30s. But this particular Wednesday, Sarah is acting really weird. She keeps looking at her phone, then at me, then back at her phone between trivia rounds. She barely talks to her friends, which isn't like her at all. She's usually very competitive and into the game. Finally, during a break, she waves me over and asks if we can talk privately. I think maybe there's a problem with one of the other customers or something work-related. We have this small office near the kitchen where I do paperwork, so I take her there. She looks really uncomfortable, like she's about to tell me someone died. I wasn't sure if I should tell you this. She starts fidgeting with her phone case, but I would want someone to tell me if it was my relationship. It turns out Sarah's sister Jenny works at this really fancy salon downtown where haircuts cost more than my rent. That morning, Katie came in for highlights. Apparently, she'd been going to Jenny for about a year and always making appointments when I was at work. This time, Katie spent the whole appointment, like 2 hours, on the phone with someone she kept calling babe and baby. Jenny could hear everything because, well, when you're doing someone's hair, you're right there. Katie was laughing and making plans for a weekend getaway, saying that her idiot fiancé, that would be me, would think she was at a real estate conference. Now I'm standing there trying to process this. Part of me wants to deny it. Maybe it was a girlfriend she was talking to. Some women call their friends babe, right? But Sarah's not done. She pulls out her phone and shows me this Instagram story her sister sent her. It's from this fancy restaurant about 2 towns over, some place called Lane or something pretentious like that. The story is posted by some random person celebrating. She was talking about how her stupid fiancé, which is me, would think she was at a real estate conference. Now I'm standing there trying to figure this out. Part of me wants to deny it. Maybe she was talking to a girlfriend. Some women call their friends babe, right? But Sarah isn't done. She pulls out her phone and shows me this Instagram story her sister sent her. It's from a fancy restaurant about 2 towns over called Lane or something like that. The story is posted by some random person celebrating their engagement, but in the background of their champagne toast photo, you can clearly see Katie cuddling up with a man in a fancy suit. This was from the Friday before, when she told me she was having a girls' night with her friends. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold the phone. The time on the story was 9:47 p.m. At 9:52 p.m. that same night, Katie sent me a selfie of her at home with her friends and face masks. She had literally staged a fake girls' night photo to cover her date. I thanked Sarah. Like, what else do you say to someone who just blew up your whole life? She apologized probably 20 times and kept saying she felt terrible. I told her she did the right thing and paid for her groups tab for the night. My owner is cool with stuff like that. Then I went back to work. I had about 5 hours left in my shift and was just running on autopilot. My mind racing. Instead of confronting Katie right away, I decided to do some digging. We had a shared iPad at home that we mostly used to watch Netflix in bed. Katie had logged into her iCloud account on it when her phone was being fixed a few months ago, and I guess she forgot about it that night after my shift while she was sleeping at her friend's house. I opened the iPad and saw hundreds of messages between her and her ex, Michael, fake name. This wasn't just a random affair. They had been hooking up at a fancy hotel near his office. The messages were graphic and went on for months, starting in February. They weren't just about sex. They were making fun of me for planning their future together and talking about how they would do it right this time. The worst part was that all of her friends knew about it. Every single one of those successful professionals was actively helping her cheat. The group chat was full of them giving her advice on how to hide it better and making jokes about my job. At least Michael can afford a real restaurant, not just bar food, and coaching her on what to say if I got suspicious. They were actually telling her to wait until after the wedding to leave me because she'd get more money in the divorce. I screenshot everything, sent it all to my email, backed it up to my Google Drive, and even took pictures of the iPad screen with my phone just in case the messages went back months. Every girls' night, every work event, and every real estate conference, she was with him, and her friends weren't just covering for her. They were actively helping plan these meetups. There was even a message from the night I proposed while I sat in our living room that night reading through 4 months of lies, trying to figure out how someone could be so cruel. How do you sleep next to someone every night and plan a future with them while actively plotting to destroy them? The next evening, when she came home from showing houses, she sent him another lie. The messages showed I was ready when she got home from his apartment. I didn't yell or cry. I just handed her the iPad with their messages open. Katie got home about 7 p.m. and I was seated in our living room. She came in all happy and talked about how she showed 3 houses that day. The narrator said she didn't show any houses that day. I let her talk for a minute while she put her things down. She even had the nerve to ask what I wanted to do for dinner, as if everything was normal. I had been practicing what I was going to say all day, but when the time came, I couldn't. I didn't even say anything. I just handed her the iPad already open to her messages with Michael. She tried to act cool for about 2 seconds, saying, "What am I supposed to be looking at?" Then she saw the date on the messages and literally dropped the iPad on our coffee table. You know how you can see someone's face change like their whole mask just drops? That's what happened. She went from confused to panicked to angry in like 5 seconds flat. She started screaming about how I invaded her privacy and had no right to look at her messages. You're worried about me staying quiet. Thank God for my experience as a bartender and my ability to keep my cool. I just kept scrolling through messages while she freaked out. When I got to the ones from the night I proposed, I handed her the iPad again and read that one out loud. She started crying instead of saying she was sorry. This was full-on manipulation crying. You know, the kind where they try to make you feel bad for catching them. She kept saying it was just a mistake and didn't mean anything and that Michael was her past but I was her present. Future spoiler alert, according to the messages I read, I was her meal ticket until she could divorce me for more money. The best part is that she actually tried to blame me, saying I was emotionally unavailable because I worked nights at the bar and that she was lonely and Michael understood better because they came from similar backgrounds. Then she dropped this gem, "If you hadn't gone through my private messages, we could have been happy." That's when I lost my cool a bit. Not yelling, but definitely not calm anymore. I asked her if we could have been happy. Happy while she was letting her friends plan our wedding and her divorce at the same time asked her how many of our special moments she'd ruined by texting him right after our engagement holidays birthdays. There were messages to him within hours of every single one. She switched tactics faster than a politician during election season. Suddenly it was all but the wedding deposits and my parents already paid for everything and what will people think not. One word about actually being sorry or loving me, just worried about money. I told her the wedding was obviously off and gave her 30 days to move out. I made sure to say that because of our state's tenant laws, even though she wasn't on the lease, she had lived there long enough to have tenant rights. I was mad, not stupid. That's when she pulled out her phone. I thought she was calling her mom or something. But no, she was texting the group chat. Remember those successful professional friends? Yeah, she was calling in the cavalry. To regret this, she said, typing away, "You have no idea who you're messing with." I actually laughed like, what was this, a bad mob movie? Told her she had 30 days to get her stuff and get out, and I was going to stay at my buddy's place tonight to give her space to pack if she wanted to start now. Started packing a bag with some clothes and stuff for work tomorrow. She was still typing away on her phone, crying but also kind of smirking. Should have been my first warning that something was really wrong. I was almost to the door when she said, "They're already on their way. You should wait to hear their side of things. I'm not a small guy. I work at a bar and know how to handle myself if things get rowdy." But something in her voice made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I decided to start recording on my phone just in case. Thank God I did. I made it about halfway to my car when I saw them pull into the parking lot. All 5 of her friends were in 2 cars. The 2 lawyers, the finance executive, the doctor, and the marketing director. They weren't dressed for work anymore. They looked like they had just come from the gym or something, and they weren't happy. So there I am in the parking lot with 5 angry women getting out of their cars and Katie watching from our apartment balcony. Thank God I decided to record my phone in my pocket again. I'm trying to decide whether to go back inside or get to my car before I can decide. Hannah, the finance executive, starts yelling that I'm an abusive piece of ... and that they're not going to let me hurt Katie anymore. I see the other 4 spreading out around me, and I realize they're trying to block my way to both my car and the building's entrance. Rachel, lawyer number 1, pulls out her phone and starts recording, saying really loudly, "We're just here to help Katie get her things safely. No one wants any violence." Jessica, lawyer number 2, is texting something and grinning like this is all some big joke. The doctor, Maria, and marketing director, Ashley, are just standing there looking nervous but trying to act tough. I say in a very calm voice, "I've given Katie 30 days notice, as required by law. I'm leaving for the night to give her space to pack. Please don't make this situation worse." That's when Hannah gets in my face and screams about how they know all about my abuse and how they're not letting Katie stay another night with a monster like me. I'm literally backing away, still holding my hands up, saying, "There are security cameras everywhere and I'm recording this. Please just let me leave." Rachel immediately yelled, "He's threatening to release private recordings of Katie. Get his phone." And that's when everything went completely crazy. Hannah lunged for my jacket pocket, where my phone was, and I turned to keep her away from it. Jessica tackled me from behind. I'm 6 feet 1 inch and she's maybe 5 feet 4 inches, but she played rugby in college, so she knew what she was doing. I ended up on the ground with Jessica trying to put me in some kind of. Hannah is kicking me and Rachel is still recording everything. But now she's yelling, "Stop resisting. Why are you fighting back?" Maria and Ashley are just watching, looking scared but not doing anything to help. I'm trying my hardest not to fight back because I know how this looks. A big guy against smaller women just trying to protect my head and not hurt anyone. That's when Katie comes running out of the apartment with our kitchen knife set. Not just one knife but the whole wooden block of them. She starts yelling about how I need to learn my lesson and hands out knives to her friends. I'm not ashamed to say that I started to panic. Jessica still has me in this hold. Hannah is kicking me, and now they have knives. I managed to free one arm and pull out my phone. I hit the emergency SOS button, which is an iPhone feature that calls 911 automatically when you click the power button 5 times quickly. I start yelling, "Police are coming," as loud as I can, hoping someone in the building will hear. Rachel, still recording, shouts, "No one will believe you." And then Jesus, Hannah actually stabs me in the arm. Not deeply because I jerked away, but enough to need 12 stitches. There's blood everywhere, which I guess freaks out Maria and Ashley because they start to back away. The next minute or 2 is a blur. I remember Katie screaming, "Finish it," from somewhere behind me and Hannah trying to stab me again while Jessica yells, "Hold him still." Then there are sirens, lots of them, and suddenly the parking lot is full of cop cars. Thank God one of my neighbors saw what was going on and called 911 so they knew it was serious. The cops came with guns drawn and told everyone to drop their weapons. Hannah and Jessica tried to run, but they didn't get very far. Rachel was still recording and wouldn't drop her phone until a cop tackled her. The best part was Katie standing there with a knife block, screaming that I attacked them and they were just defending themselves. Meanwhile, I was bleeding all over the parking lot and clearly not fighting back. Everything was on at least 3 different cameras, including my phone. Building security and Rachel's dumbass livestream the next few hours are kind of a blur. Ambulance ride, emergency room, police interviews, lots of photos of my injuries. Turns out besides the stab wound I had 2 broken ribs, a concussion, and basically looked like I'd gone 10 rounds with a UFC fighter. But here's the real kicker: we found out later that while I was in the ER, these idiots were at the police station literally arguing with the cops about getting their phones back so they could delete some personal stuff. Rachel, yes, lawyer actually said that if you look at our group chat, it will be misinterpreted. The next few days after the attack were absolutely insane. I spent that first night in the ER getting stitches and treatment. Pro tip: when the nurse asks you how much pain you're in and you say like a 4 or 5 while having broken ribs, They just assume you're being a tough guy and give you the good painkillers anyway. While I was getting patched up, this victim advocate from the DA's office showed up and started explaining all this legal stuff. But I was really high on whatever they gave me for pain. The one thing I remember clearly is her saying, "This is the most clear-cut case of premeditated assault I've seen in years." She had no idea how right she was. Meanwhile, Katie and her crazy squad were having their own fun night at the county jail. I found out later that they were all put in separate cells because they wouldn't stop trying to coordinate their stories. Rachel's first lawyer kept demanding her one phone call like it was a TV show, and Jessica's second lawyer tried to pull the "do you know who I am? Hannah, the one who stabbed me." She apparently had a full meltdown when they took her designer jacket as evidence because it had my blood on it. Here's where it gets good. Remember how I said Rachel was recording everything? She was actually live streaming to their private Instagram group. The cops got a warrant for all their phones and social media and found everything. Not just the attack but months of them planning stuff like this. The group chat was a gold mine. Professionals had literally written out their plan. Wait for Katie to make me mad, record me being abusive, which is what I was doing to protect myself. Edit the videos to make me look bad, file false domestic violence charges, get arrested, and get kicked out of my own apartment. Then they would help Katie move in with Michael, her ex, while I was in jail, wait for the wedding date to pass, have Katie file for divorce claiming emotional distress, and use the edited videos to get a bigger settlement. They had it all planned out like some kind of psycho PowerPoint presentation. There were even messages about the best angles to film from and who would do what. The best part is that they were using their work phones. These geniuses used their work phones to plan an attack, but wait, it gets better. 2 days after the attack, while I'm still in the hospital, Katie shows up at my work and starts telling my staff and customers that I'm abusive and that I attacked her friends. She says that everyone needs to know the truth about me. My assistant manager, Dave, got it all on security cameras and called the police. The cops She did this 3 more times before the cops finally arrested her for violating the emergency restraining order they had put in place. Each time she'd bring a different friend, Maria and Ashley, who weren't in jail, to witness her telling her story. They filmed it too, probably thinking they were gathering evidence. Spoiler alert, those videos ended up being used against them instead. Then Michael, remember him, the lawyer boyfriend, gets involved. This genius starts sending threatening emails to me, and the cops who arrested his girlfriend's friends were talking like full-on movie villains. "You don't know who you're dealing with, and I have friends in the DA's office. This will all go away if you drop the charges." He sent these from his law firm email, a licensed attorney threatening a victim in law enforcement from his verified work email. The DA's office was practically salivating when they got those about a week after the attack. Their high-powered defense attorneys showed up for the bail hearing looking like they just walked off a TV show set. The judge, an older man, looked like he was going to fall asleep during their whole speech. They were all confident and smug, talking about how great their clients' reputations and community standing were. Then the prosecutor stood up and started dropping bombs. Full security footage from multiple building cameras, my phone recording Rachel's livestream, screenshots of group chat messages showing them Googling things like how to make self-defense look real, and what happens if you stab someone in self-defense, and Michael's threats against Katie. At my work, medical records showed only defensive wounds, and there were only witness statements from neighbors. The knife with Hannah's fingerprints and my DNA was found. The judge's face changed from sleepy grandpa to stone-cold fury in about 2 seconds. He set their bail at $500,000 each. Hannah, Jessica, and Rachel had to give up their passports and wear ankle monitors because they were considered flight risks. Apparently, they all had international accounts and properties. Maria and Ashley were the ones who didn't take part in the actual attack. Got lesser charges and lower bail but still had to wear monitors. Katie got hit with conspiracy charges and had to surrender her passport too, but the real bombshell dropped about 2 weeks later. Ashley, who had been spiraling since the attack, finally cracked. Her lawyer contacted the DA's office saying she wanted to make a deal. Turned out she had another group chat that the others didn't know about where they'd been even more explicit about their plans. She had voice messages from Katie talking about how they'd practiced the attack at Maria's home gym, videos of them talking about how to make it look like self-defense, messages about how they chose my apartment specifically because they knew where the security cameras were and thought they could use the footage to their advantage. The best part, she had a video of them all celebrating at some wine bar after Katie got engaged, planning how they'd help her get a better divorce settlement by setting me up. This was from the night I proposed while I Was texting our families the happy news. They were literally planning how to ruin my life. The trial started in November, about 7 months after the attack. Those months were hard. Katie and her 2 friends who weren't in jail, Maria and Ashley, kept trying to spread lies about me around town. They made fake social media accounts to post edited clips from the ATT attack, tried to contact my employees to find out more about me, and even showed up at my parents' house to tell their side of the story. My lawyer, who was provided by the DA's office because this was a criminal case, was this tiny woman in her 50s who looked like everyone's favorite aunt but was scary as hell in court. First thing she told me was to document everything and don't respond to any attempts at contact, so that's what I did. Every fake account, every harassment attempt, every little thing went into a folder that just made their case worse. The trial itself was surreal. Their defense strategy was interesting. They tried claiming they were protecting Katie from an abusive relationship despite zero evidence of abuse, and that they acted in self-defense despite literally bringing knives to attack me. Their lawyers kept trying to make me look like a violent, controlling boyfriend because I caught their client cheating and asked her to move out. I had to testify for 2 full days, and their lawyers tried everything to make me lose my cool. They called me a liar, suggested I was the real abuser, and even tried to make it seem like I was homophobic because I didn't want Katie hanging out with her friends alone while she was cheating on me. But bartending teaches you to stay calm when people are being ... And I just kept telling the truth. The prosecution's case was beautiful to watch. They had this huge TV screen set up in the courtroom and showed everything in chronological order. Security footage of them arriving at my apartment, spreading out to trap me, my phone recording of them attacking me, Rachel's live stream showing them with the knives building, security footage of the actual attack, police body cam footage of them being arrested, video of Katie harassing me at work, screenshots of their group chats planning everything, Michael's threatening emails, medical photos of my injuries, the knife with Hannah's prints and my blood. But the real star was Ashley's testimony. She'd taken the plea deal, smart move, and laid out everything, told the jury how they'd planned this for months, how Katie had been cheating since before the engagement but wanted to wait for the wedding because she thought she'd get more money in a divorce, how they'd actually practiced the attack at Maria's gym, planning how to make it look like self-defense. The jury's faces during her testimony were priceless. These were just some friends who got too into protecting their friend. This was a planned attack to get me arrested and help Katie scam me in a divorce. Then Katie took the stand to defend her friends, which was a stupid move. Holy ... What a disaster. The prosecutor let her talk herself into a confession. She started out crying about how scared she was of me, even though there was no evidence and she was living with me voluntarily. Then she got mad when they showed her messages planning the attack and yelled that I deserved it for the best. And worst part of going through her iPad was when she accidentally said that Michael, the lawyer boyfriend, had helped her write the fake police report about me being abusive. The prosecutor's eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. After that, their defense fell apart, and the jury took only 6 hours to find them guilty. Hannah, Jessica, and Rachel, the Stabby Squad, were found guilty of attempted aggravated assault, conspiracy, and a bunch of other charges. Maria was found guilty of conspiracy and accessory. Ashley got probation as part of her plea deal because she testified. The sentencing hearing was different. The judge was not happy and called it one of the most calculated and malicious cases he had seen in 30 years. He said their status as legal professionals made it worse because they knew what they were doing was wrong. Hannah Stabby McStabberson got 36 months in state prison with no parole for 24 months and 5 years probation after that. Jessica Rugby Tackle Lawyer got the same sentence as Hannah. Rachel Livestream Genius got the same sentence as Hannah, and Maria got the same sentence as Hannah. The doctor was nervous and got 18 months of probation and 300 hours of community service. Ashley took the deal and got 12 months of probation and agreed to testify against others. Katie is still waiting for her own trial but took a plea deal. More on that and the final chapter. Michael, oh boy, wait until you hear what happened to him. They all lost their professional licenses, the lawyers got disbarred, the doctor lost her medical license, and the finance executive lost all her certifications. Their fancy careers were gone, their reputations were ruined, and their freedom was gone for 3 years. I will update if anything happens. Occurred. Thanks for your assistance and comments.